Hello, everyone. Today we will explore a heartbreaking and haunting case about a young girl who went missing on her way to church and never returned. What investigators uncovered revealed the terrifying truth behind this case. This is the story of Zoe Hastings, an 18-year-old girl full of ambition, and the investigation journey to bring the perpetrator to light. Let's dive into the full details of this case. Zoe Hastings was born on November 21, 1996, in Kansas. As the eldest of 5 siblings, Zoe was always ready to help her parents take care of her younger brothers and sisters. The Hastings family was devout, and church played an important role in their lives. After moving to Dallas, Zoe attended an arts high school where she developed a passion for painting and acting. She also worked part-time at a local painting studio and pool to gain experience. In 2015, Zoe was preparing to go on a missionary trip with her church. On October 11th, she left home at 4:40 p.m. to attend a meeting at the church to prepare for the trip. Zoe promised her parents that she would be home before dinner, but she never returned. On October 11th, 2015, Zoe left home at 4:40 p.m. to attend the meeting at the church. She promised to return before dinner, but by 6:30 p.m., Zoe had still not come back. This was extremely unusual for Zoe, a girl who was always punctual and responsible. Her parents began to worry. They called and texted Zoe but received no response. When contacting her friends and relatives, they found that no one had seen her that evening. The feeling of worry turned into panic when they called the church and learned that Zoe had never attended the meeting as planned. Unable to sit still, Zoe's parents called 911 to report their daughter missing. However, when the police did not come to their house to take statements, they decided to drive directly to the police station to file a report. Afterward, they drove along the road from their home to the church, hoping to find any trace of Zoe. The search continued throughout the night, but yielded no results. The next morning, Zoe's mother remembered that she had been using a location tracking app on her phone. Using this app, they discovered that Zoe's last known location was just a few hundred meters from the church, near a small creek. Zoe's parents immediately arrived at the location and were met with a haunting scene. Police cars, ambulances, and forensic officers working at the scene. They were informed that a body had been found. When the officers told them it was Zoe, the entire family collapsed. However, the police quickly confirmed that this was not an accident. The evidence at the scene indicated that Zoe had become the victim of a brutal murder. Zoe's disappearance rapidly turned into a homicide investigation. Investigators began gathering every clue at the scene and searching for the killer behind this horrific crime. When the investigators arrived at the scene, they quickly realized that this was not an ordinary accident. Zoe's body was found a few hundred meters from her family's minivan, which was partially submerged in the nearby creek. Zoe's body showed signs of a violent attack. She had been stabbed multiple times in the neck, and signs on her clothing indicated that she had been sexually assaulted before being murdered. The gruesome scene led investigators to realize they were dealing with a complex murder. Upon further examination of the scene, the police found a blood-stained knife near the creek, believed to be the weapon used in the crime. Zoe's family minivan also showed some unusual signs. All the doors were locked except for the driver's side. This led investigators to suspect that the perpetrator may have driven the vehicle to the scene or threatened Zoe to commit the crime. GPS data from Zoe's phone showed she had reached the creek area around 5:01 p.m., just 20 minutes after leaving home. This meant that everything happened very quickly, right after she left the DVD store where she had stopped to return a movie. With this initial evidence, investigators focused on searching for witnesses. They believed someone may have seen something important in the brief time between when Zoe left her home and when she arrived at the scene. The findings at the scene laid the foundation for the investigation, but investigators needed more information to piece together the entire sequence of events. Who was behind this murder? And how could they carry out such a brutal act in just a few short minutes? Stay tuned for the next part. Investigators began searching for witnesses in the area where Zoe was last seen. After reviewing security footage and interviewing dozens of people, they found two key witnesses. The first witness was Lester Clark, who worked at a tattoo shop near the DVD store where Zoe stopped before she disappeared. Lester recalled seeing Zoe attempting to open the minivan door when a strange man approached her. The man placed his hand on the door and said something to her before both of them got into the car. The man sat in the driver's seat, and Zoe moved to the passenger seat. Although Lester felt the situation was a bit tense, he didn't think anything unusual was happening at that time. The second witness, Gary Whitman, was a homeless man near the parking lot area. Gary said he saw the man holding something that looked like a knife as he approached Zoe. After a brief conversation, she was forced into the car. Feeling suspicious, Gary asked a store employee to call 911, though it was unclear if the call was ever made. These testimonies painted a clearer picture of Zoe's final moments. Both witnesses described the suspect as a short, muscular, African-American man. The police realized this might be the person who killed Zoe, and they began searching for his identity. Based on the witness statements and evidence at the scene, the police had some important leads. However, to catch the suspect, they needed a bigger breakthrough, and that breakthrough came from the weapon used in the crime. When forensic experts examined the blood-stained knife found at the scene, they discovered a DNA sample on the handle, a crucial breakthrough in the case. This DNA sample was sent to the FBI's national database, and a match was quickly found. It belonged to Antonio Cochran, a 34-year-old man with a serious criminal record. Antonio had a long history of criminal offenses, including theft, assault, and breaking and entering. Notably, in 2014, he was accused of sexually assaulting his girlfriend's 17-year-old daughter. According to the victim's testimony, Antonio had threatened her, forced her into a secluded area, and committed the assault. Although he was arrested, due to a lack of evidence, Antonio was acquitted in that case. When the police went to arrest Antonio at his home, he denied any involvement in Zoe's murder. However, investigators continued to dig deeper to find additional evidence to support their suspicions. GPS data from Antonio's phone showed that around 4:34 p.m. on the day Zoe went missing, his phone connected to a cell tower near the DVD store, where Zoe was last seen. This matched the witness testimonies. Furthermore, Antonio's web search history revealed suspicious behavior. After Zoe's death, he visited local news sites over 30 times, mostly to read articles related to the case. This suggested that Antonio was closely monitoring the investigation, a behavior often observed in perpetrators. Text messages from Antonio's phone further revealed his unstable state before the crime. He messaged friends and family saying he was drinking, driving around, and feeling desperate. One day after Zoe's death, Antonio sent a cryptic message to his ex-girlfriend, "My life is over, and you'll soon know why." Despite the overwhelming circumstantial evidence against Antonio, the DNA sample on the knife handle was the most crucial piece of evidence. Police believed they had caught the killer and moved forward with charging Antonio with kidnapping, sexual assault, and murder. Zoe's case quickly went to trial, with Antonio Cochran as the main defendant. Prosecutors argued that on the day Zoe went missing, Antonio approached her in the parking lot, threatened her with a knife, and forced her into the car. He then drove her to a secluded area, where he committed sexual assault and brutally murdered her. The key evidence included a DNA sample on the knife handle found at the scene, which matched Antonio's DNA, a GPS data from Antonio's phone, showing he was near the DVD store at the time Zoe was abducted, testimonies from 2 witnesses, describing how Antonio approached Zoe and forced her into the car. However, Antonio's defense attorney attempted to undermine this evidence. They argued that the DNA on the knife was insufficient to prove Antonio was the killer, as it only showed he had held the knife, not that he used it to kill Zoe. They also tried to discredit the testimony of witness Gary Whitman, a homeless man, by pointing out his criminal history. Despite these arguments, the jury was not persuaded. With strong coordination between investigators and prosecutors, Antonio was found guilty. After a lengthy and tense trial, Antonio Cochran was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Initially, the prosecution had planned to seek the death penalty. But they realized that relying on circumstantial evidence would make it difficult to secure the highest sentence. Zoe's family felt a sense of relief when justice was finally served. Zoe's father shared that he had tried to protect his children from the dangers of the world. But the tragedy still struck so close to home. This loss would forever be an unhealable wound. Zoe's case was not only a personal tragedy, but also a reminder of the responsibility of the community and the legal system to protect vulnerable individuals. Zoe's family hoped that her story would help prevent similar tragedies in the future. If you think this story is worth sharing, please like and subscribe to the channel to help spread this message. Leave a comment below. What do you think about the way the legal system handled this case? Thank you for watching today's video. We'll see you in the next stories.